After thousands of miles of an arduous journey and close enough to the border of the United States that they could see the lights of a major American city, they were turned back, denied entry. The dreams and the hopes of America, the land of opportunity, was at their fingertips, but they were unable to enter. They yearned for America, the land of freedom, the land of immigrants, a beacon of hope for all those who distress. However, once they were discovered, they were stalked by the American authorities, unable to enter the land they aspired to live in. These travelers fleeing uncertainty and terror at home didn't have the proper papers. Many of us know this story. The year was 1939, the American city was Miami, and the ship was the St. Louis. After being denied entry to Cuba, the captain, a non-Jewish German, appealed to the American government and President Roosevelt for safe passage in the United States. At one point, the captain even considered running aground along the Atlantic coast to allow the refugees to escape on their own. However, the ship was shadowed by the U.S. Coast Guard, and a grounding was impossible. Denied permission to land in the United States, with over 900 Jewish German refugees on board, the ship was forced to return to Europe. Many of those who returned ultimately perished in the Holocaust. But this is not a drash about Holocaust remembrance. What I hope it is an opportunity to recall one of the guiding principles of Jewish life, the Jewish code that has served as the moral compass of our people from the minute we crossed the Red Sea, fleeing the Egyptian chariots, until today. The words of Exodus 13, that in every generation we are obligated to see ourselves as though we personally went out from Egypt. We are obligated to remember our origins as a nation of immigrants, searching, wandering, hoping for a better life. For those of us here, somewhere along the lines, we found our home here in America. Tonight, as we celebrate the American promise that called out to our ancestors and brought us here, we remember that we were not always wanted or accepted by this society. One rabbi recently shared with me the story of a congregant's grandfather who came to the U.S. in the 1930s. One of 11 children, each of the boys had a different path westward to avoid the Polish draft. After stops in Belgium and France, unable to get a visa for immigration and looking for any opportunity to enter the U.S., he came instead on a tourist visa. Like many other undocumented immigrants, when his tourist visa expired, he stayed put, trying to live below the radar. He fell in love, he got married, he had a son. And then one night, immigration agents came into his home in New York, and while his 2-year-old son slept, they arrested him. Having overstayed his visa, neither his marriage nor his son protected him. Having committed no crime other than living in the U.S. without legal documentation, he was eventually deported in 1938 to Poland. And his family never heard from him again. There are countless stories today similar to this one. Stories of immigrants who have established families in the U.S. but are threatened with deportation. Stories of people seeking a safer life for themselves and their families, but who cannot find a legal path to immigration. Somehow, we did. At some point, our families became one of the lucky ones that made it here. But it was the brilliant German philosopher Goethe who proclaimed, what you have inherited from your forebears, you must earn for yourself before you can really call it your own. We have inherited the promise of America. But what have we done to earn it? How have we internalized our family's history? How do we help protect the dream of America? How do we help ensure its access to all those who need it today? How can we ensure that America live up to its promise? And how can we continue to support new immigrants to realize the American dream? These are the questions we consider this Shabbat, this 4th of July weekend. We reflect on the promise of America and wonder what we can do to keep it real.